So
Oh,
shall we look at all the beautiful questions that have come in
hmm.
more concretely on, for example, leadership? Let's see. So we've touched upon this circle becoming mental, bringing it back to feelings, setting the atmosphere. And there's also some questions around, okay, but when do I actively lead and when do I allow it to happen? When do I speak? And if I speak, is it
Yeah.
me, ego, or so? Also, and when I lead, I take the place from others. So that's an inner dance of
Hmm.
when do I speak, and perhaps we can the other questions I feel we've touched upon, but this
Yeah.
part perhaps we can all share our wisdom here.
Hmm.
Oh,
Oh,
Mm. Mm.
you know,
That's a good question.
yeah, I'm keeping it simple, Harman, and coming back to the basics. That is, you know, firstly, any thriving sacred brotherhood that I know are brotherhoods with rotating leadership, shared leadership. That means, you know, there isn't any one authority figure. It is shared leadership. And yet, there are some specific roles that people are clear about. Like, somebody might be the timekeeper, somebody might be the firekeeper, etc. Um, Now, everyone has to be the standard bearers. Sacred brotherhood will not continue to remain sacred as long as everyone doesn't embody the standards. And as a leader, for me, one of the greatest responsibilities that I notice is to be the embodiment of the standards. And that means, when do I actively lead or speak as a leader? It comes back to, as a custodian of the standards, when do I notice one of the sacred standards being violated? And when I see that, and in different traditions, there are different signals offered, and is extremely valuable for some of our listeners. In different traditions, I've noticed um, different ways in which to alert the group when somebody is violating a sacred standard, like being violent towards somebody else, or talking over each other, or confidentiality, or whatever the sacred standards are that is co-created. When there's a violation, in my tradition, this is what we do. We just raise our hand like this, and the moment somebody else sees that, that person will also do this, and other people, slowly everyone will start seeing, and everyone will keep their hands like this. So sooner or later, um, everyone in the group knows, oh, time for introspection, time for pause. Now we are violating some agreed standard. And none of this comes from a place of violence. There are other traditions where they raise their hands like this. Or you can agree on some other signal, whenever there's a violation of standards. I, in our tradition, this is what it goes. And it doesn't mean that you must stop, or I disagree with you, or you have, or you exceeded your quota of time. No, it just means, you know, that I am taking responsibility for a feeling I have that currently there is a violation of standard. And it helps us all come back into the presence, into the present, take a couple of deep breaths, maybe a break is needed, whatever it is, and then return to the standards, to the process. So there is no reason I feel I want to, and I need to enforce myself if somebody talks a little too much or stays in the surface. That's their process. But I know I'm going to honor the standard of being real, being authentic, being with my feelings, and I'm going to embody those standards. I know for myself I'm going to do that. If somebody is going to be, advising towards me or counseling me, Zozal het sein. That is that brother's reality. Me, unless I'm specifically asked for advice, no, I just remain, I embody the standards that we agreed. And that means, part of the standards very often is that we don't, impose our will on others. I stick to that. And when there is, as a leader, when I see a violation, I do that. And slowly others will join as well, because this also is a standard to be agreed on, that if we see a violation of standard, what is the, non-violent, non-aggressive invitation to return to our breath. So these are a couple of thoughts coming to, these inquiries, when do I actively lead or actively speak as a leader, etc. Oh.
I love the notion that you bring to leadership, that actually leading, the traditional way of leading is sort of the leading the way, or in various battle circumstances, like the king who leads the way, forges first. And what you actually say is that if anything, leading is mostly about being the custodian of the standards, maintaining it a safe space, managing in a way, from another angle, also the energy of the circle. It's actually more going out of the way and leading by example than stepping in the way.
Beautiful. Well articulated. Yeah.
And I have to confess that has been a very intense learning journey for me as well. Like bringing it back to when I started. The first time I definitely had the feeling that I had to lead from A to Z. Because I had the plan, I had invited, I supposedly knew what I was going to do, even in the experiment that I gave myself. So
wow.
For me, my rich experiences have really been about getting comfortable with the silence. So and that's been really challenging also, very much. And I notice how often I would say we people fill the silence with something because it's more comfortable having something in the air, whatever it is, than nothing. So silence has been really a teacher for me. And also trusting, like you said, Sujith, that even if I convocate the meeting, even if I perhaps even kick it off with the recentering, the meditation, perhaps even when I'm holding the thread, the 7 stages of the meeting, even if I'm holding the time and checking where we are, whether it's time to round up, even if I do that, then still trusting, especially also in the sort of the thick part, the passage part, that indeed everyone is a leader, and that I, from not speaking, being in the silence, staring at the fire, I don't know, whatever, that there is a moment where what really needs to be shared, or what really comes from within a brother, even keeping up the standards for others, will happen. So trusting beyond my own level of comfortability, trusting that by allowing the silence to be there, stretching, penetrating the comfort zone, there is so much blessing in what field emerges then. And actually that's the moment where others can step into leadership, because I got out of the way. Oh,
Beautifully
Oh,
said. Oh, anything coming up, Barry?
yeah. When do I speak up? Apart from what you all shared, which I acknowledge fully and recognize fully, is when do I speak up is a very important lesson for me in leadership, is to meet the men where they are. In the beginning, I wanted to take them on this battlefield where I stood. Yet I didn't take in account where they are in their journey. So as a leader, for me, it became very clear that I needed to meet them where they are, to ask questions, to make sure that I know where they are coming from. And that for me is a very important part of leadership and leading the circle. And breaking the silence to get more clarity, to get deepened information about the words this man uses, and not make assumptions, which is, for me, a very important standard in my circles, to not make assumptions, to ask questions, to deepen the words that are spoken.
Wow.
So that I want to add. Oh.
Beautiful, beautiful. Love it.
yeah. Oh, and perhaps bridging still, I love the symbols that you brought in, Sujith, like the doing this or doing that. Just wanting to add one that I've experienced, a very profound one, is actually the listening stick. Being, especially in life circles, it can happen that some men, even if they start off with, can I ask a question? And they are allowed to question, that somehow some sort of a dialogue starts to happen, or a conversation. And I always so much love the power of the talking stick, someone who at that moment is the standard bearer, whether it's me or someone else, taking that stick, sometimes even physically stand up, or even putting it in the ground, sort of, bam. It's a very firm and very clear sign that maybe the attention has drifted up, and bringing it back literally to earth and to silence and to the one who's holding the stick. And sometimes I subtly do that when someone starts talking, just hand over the stick. Having the stick when you're sharing really does something to the energy of your sharing. It makes most men more conscious about the words they are uttering. It's really an invitation to listen within first before spreading anything. And I always love, Barry knows this one, that sometimes the standard, we as fire makers sometimes actively also mention the Wiebe check, which is the check that Brother Wiebe always said. When you check whether what you want to share is actually what you want to share and need to share. If there's a yes, check again. If it's still a yes, check again. And if really, really, really deeply from within there is a third yes, then share it. And it's amazing how often this proves fantastic way of reducing noise, reducing superfluous sharing, simply an invitation to go deeply within. And it's also a great way of sort of going to an ending of a circle, to really do some sort of a final check. Is it complete? Can you go home? Really go home? Is there something that needs to be shared? So I love that.
Yeah.
Extra notion for an invitation for deep reflection.
And it's beautiful, what is getting shared right now is also about the standards. There are some very profound insights in our sharing around some good standards that will hold a sacred brotherhood sacred, like honoring the listening stick, and then also the talk around being present, like present to the energy of the group. Like one of the questions is about what if somebody just goes away from the energy of the group because he has got the stick in his hand and he is on his own little journey. And I've noticed many times that the rest of the group loses, or the brother loses the rest of the group, because they're struggling to understand this person, even hear the person mumble, to connect the threads of the various emotions of the person. It is so often possible that other brothers, or the brother with the stick, might lose the other brothers. And then how do we bring everyone back? That itself is a shared standard, that if you lose me, my way of indicating to you that I need help. It's not like you shut up, or you're ranting, or you're mumbling, or you're not making sense, or you're taking too much time. No, none of that violence. It is just that, please help me. I'm lost. So help me understand more. This is a symbol of reconciliation and connection, not of violence and separation. Please, it's a request for help. So already in this conversation we had in the last few minutes, also a number of very valuable standards came up that is informative for our new brothers. So just want to acknowledge that thought. Oh.
I arrived on my destination. So I will be leaving, and I can understand if you continue. So please feel what arises, because I love the sharings, and I really need to go.
Perfect.
Man's got to do what a man's got to do.
Oh, yeah, indeed. The incredible balancing act of your life, Barry. Wow.
Yes, it is.
It's
so
your sacrifices, I must say, Barry, much more dear than my sacrifice. You have a dearth of time, and still you are putting yourself through the grind to make time. Me, lazy man, plenty of time, it's a lesser sacrifice. So just want to honor that.
Thank you so much. Within a few years, I will stand next to you, and then I will share the same.
Retirement or joy.
Yeah, early retirement.
Lovely. Great indeed. If with your permission, Barry, just rounding up a few of the thoughts around standards and the energy.
Yeah.
And indeed, that doesn't exclude the opportunity for us to come back and add more to these conversations. But since knowing that Harmen is entering a busy stretch, if some of these thoughts are rounded off, then at a later stage we can leisurely come together to a more detailed conversation. But for
That's
now,
great.
just the threads around standards, wrapping it up.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
Barry.
you so much.
And since we've been in so many circles together where we both upheld the standards and played with that, I also know that for some, for to a certain extent, I'm also speaking on behalf of our common experience when I share further.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Brothers,
Have a great
thank you.
day.
See you soon. Enjoy. Thank you so much, brothers. See you soon.
Ciao, ciao. Big hug.
Ciao,
baby.
Bye,
ciao.
Barry.
Yeah.